And in 10 minutes, impressions of the dawn rising over an airfield in Norfolk, the setting for A Flying Start. That's in 10 minutes. First, the mid-evening news on 2 with Kenneth Kendall.
In Northern Ireland, it's been a day of funerals as the communities mourn 4 of their dead. 3 of the funerals of those who died in the Troubles took place in Belfast. Eric Guiney, the milkman who died after his milk lorry crashed when attacked by a stone-throwing mob. Matt McClarnon, a member of the Irish National Liberation Army, shot by soldiers when he fired on a patrol. And 14-year-old Julie Livingston, who was killed by a plastic bullet. For the funeral of Francis Hughes, the IRA hunger striker, police closed roads into the village of Bellachi in County Londonderry, as Kate Adie reports.
The fact that Francis Hughes died a convicted murderer was of no consequence to the thousands who followed his coffin. As a second martyr of the hunger strike, he was given the sympathy of Republicans and the ceremonial of the IRA. Masks and dress uniforms, shots over the coffin, the fully legal show for public consumption. As the cortege wound its way to the church in Bellachi, some of the immense police security appeared, primarily to insist that the procession take a route which avoided the main street and Protestant houses. Shouts and abuse, a few stones, but the cortege had to use the country lanes. Thousands preferred a shortcut across the fields, some youths shouting for action against the security forces. All they got was rural action. With hundreds of police and soldiers ringing the village, the body of Francis Hughes was buried, a hero to some, a criminal to others.
Mrs. Roberta Guiney buried her 14-year-old son on Tuesday. Today, she went to her husband's funeral. Father and son were together in Mr. Guiney's milk lorry when they were attacked by stone throwers and the lorry smashed into a telegraph pole. As the coffin left the Protestant church in the centre of a housing estate on the northern edge of Belfast, several hundred people gathered to watch, and schoolchildren spent their lunch hour at the graveside service. In a city where the funerals of those who die violently are so commonplace, the Guineys' tragedy is particularly poignant. For father and son were going about their ordinary business when rioters attacked them in the wave of violence that followed the death of hunger striker Bobby Sands.
Wales have called off their home international soccer match with Northern Ireland because of the Troubles. A statement from the Welsh FA said a number of players were not happy about travelling to Northern Ireland under present circumstances. The match was due to be played next Friday. England have already pulled out of their game, originally set for tomorrow. MPs are to get a pay increase of what amounts to 18% from next month. But 12% of the increase is the third stage of a catching-up package first approved in 1979. Announcing the award, Mrs. Thatcher said ministers and MPs were a unique case. The MP's pay rise means that a backbench member's salary goes up from £11,750 a year to nearly £14,000, and a cabinet minister's from £23,500 to nearly £28,000. The armed forces are also to get an increase of 10%. It'll give a lance corporal £130 a week, a captain up to £10,200 a year, and a brigadier nearly £21,000 a year. But groups who'll get less than recommended by their pay boards are judges, civil service heads and defence chiefs. They go down from 12% to 7%. Doctors and dentists are also to get less than they expected, 7%. The Prime Minister has ordered an inquiry into how a confidential copy of her day-to-day engagements was found lying about in the House of Commons. Officials regard the matter as a serious breach of security. This evening's bulletin on the Pope says he's steadily improving, though not yet out of danger. His temperature and pulse are slightly up, though this isn't causing concern. He's in great pain and has been having sedatives. Further surgery is expected soon to remove some of the tubes placed in his stomach. But noticeably, the doctors have now dropped any mention of caution and concern about the long-term outlook. Earlier, Mike Mackay sent this report from the Gemelli Clinic in Rome.
On his third day in hospital, the Pope is progressing well, but not out of danger altogether. The risk of infection is what concerns his 6 doctors, and they'll be much happier if and when that passes. If it does, they expect full recovery within a matter of months rather than weeks. While the messages and flowers pour into him, the Pope's been talking sympathetically to his doctors about the 2 women tourists also shot on Wednesday and about the man who fired the gun.
Well, about the man who shot him, he expressed his compassion, his pardon, and he sent a message to the 2 women that were injured with him, and they are hospitalized in another hospital.
Outside, the cameras and the television crews keep a 24-hour watch, but they'll have to wait some time before they see the Pope again.
Italian police have been questioning the Turk who shot the Pope to see whether he acted alone or as part of a conspiracy. They're being helped by 2 Turkish detectives. A former member of the Turkish Grey Wolves terrorist organization says the attack was in protest against the trial in Turkey of Alparslan Türkeş, the extreme right-wing politician and members of his National Action Party. The source said Mehmet Ağca carried out the shooting on direct orders from the party, and it was only the first of a planned series of attacks. From Rome today, a news agency released this picture of the Pope only seconds before he was shot. It shows the attacker's hand holding the gun ready to fire. The agency says the picture is authentic and was taken from an 8mm cine film being made by a member of the crowd. The gun is a Belgian-made 9mm automatic, actually the well-known Browning, built under license by the Belgian National Factory. A maximum of 13 rounds can be held in the magazine clip. It's a standard handgun, turned out in large numbers in North America and Europe for civilian and military purposes, and used by both sides in the Second World War. Turkish police at Nevşehir have arrested 3 men for helping Mehmet Ağca to obtain the false passport he was carrying in Rome. They are the police chief, the man whose name was on the passport, and the local leader of the Idealists, an extreme right-wing group with whom Ağca was associated. A High Court judge has extended the injunction granted to Prince Charles preventing the journalist Simon Regan from disclosing the content of alleged tapped telephone calls between the Prince and Lady Diana Spencer. Mr. Regan has also been ordered to hand over to his solicitor for safekeeping tapes, transcripts, notes, and other documents. Princess Anne, who's expecting a baby any time now, went into St. Mary's Hospital, Paddington, early this afternoon, where a private room has been reserved for her. At the Yorkshire Ripper trial at the Old Bailey, a defence psychiatrist, Dr. Hugo Milne, has conceded to the Crown that the first 2 of Sutcliffe's killings could well have been murders. He said that when Sutcliffe killed William McCann and Emily Jackson, there was no medical proof that he had any mental abnormality. A second psychiatrist, Dr. Malcolm McCulloch, said Sutcliffe is a paranoid schizophrenic. He told the court he'd reached that conclusion within half an hour of first meeting him. And now for the main points of the news again, with subtitles for the hard of hearing. In Northern Ireland, there have been 4 funerals of people who've died in the Troubles. 3 were buried in Belfast, and the IRA hunger striker Francis Hughes was buried in Bellaghy in County Londonderry. Members of Parliament are to get an 18% pay rise and the armed forces 10%, well above the government's 6% cash limit. An MP will now earn nearly £14,000, and a cabinet minister will get nearly £28,000 a year. Judges, civil service heads and defence chiefs will get 7%, but doctors and dentists will only get a pay increase of 6%. The Prime Minister, Mrs. Thatcher, has ordered an inquiry into how her official diary was found lying about in the House of Commons. It lists her confidential engagements, and officials regard the matter as a serious breach of security. The Pope is continuing to make a steady recovery, although he's been running a high fever. The outlook is said to be distinctly better, but the Pope is being drip-fed and he's wearing an oxygen mask. Princess Anne, who's expecting her 2nd child this week, has gone into St. Mary's Hospital in London. She left Windsor early this afternoon and arrived at the hospital, where a private room has been reserved for her. Well, that's all from me. News night will be at 10:45. Now a look at the weather.
Tomorrow most places will start cloudy with outbreaks of rain. Brighter weather with sunny intervals and showers, already into the southwest, will spread to Northern Ireland and the rest of England and Wales during the day, but southern and central Scotland will remain cloudy with further rain at times. Northeast Scotland will have bright spells and a few showers. Temperatures will be close to the mid-May normal, ranging from 16 degrees centigrade, 61 degrees Fahrenheit in southeast England, to 10 degrees centigrade, 50 degrees Fahrenheit in the Northeast Isles. And that's the weather. In 10 minutes, this week's Gardener's World. First on BBC2, a new day dawns at RAF Coltishall in Norfolk, and we begin to get a variety of different impressions. The fourth in this series of short films by Dennis Mitchell takes us to the north of England with a portrait of Yorkshireman George Leat, the owner of an old watermill and a well-known judge in the canine world. That's Impressions the Miller, next Friday at 7:50. Now, staying with the rural theme on 2, we visit Clack's Farm, the well-known haunt for horticulturalists, the setting for this week's Gardener's World.
Hello and welcome to Gardener's World from Clack's Farm. You know, join us then, I'm sure you'll find something of interest.
Now on to David Jessel reports for Newsweek on the unexpected repercussions emanating from the North Sea bubble.
Steve Bradshaw reports on what the Reagan administration is up to in Central America. In Washington, it seems the domino theory lives on. Till then, good night.
And that'll be next week at 8:25. Staying on the subject of politics and current affairs, on BBC1 in a few moments, there's the 9 o'clock news with Richard Whitmore. Here on BBC2, the general policy for the next 30 minutes or so will be to attempt to conceal the truth in the hope that someone can call my bluff.
Call my bluff, which means more thimble rigging from Frank Muir. Thank you,
My first guest is a policewoman, which is an actress, really, but she is from The Gentle Touch, and it's Jill Gascoigne. And My next is the return of an actor who's on this every season, and you will remember his noble face from that grand series which my local paper happily misprinted as The Return of the Stain. It's Ian Ogilvy.
And the very spirit of true grit, Arthur Marshall.
Good evening. Very glad to welcome back again the charming actress Maureen Lipman. And making his first appearance on Call My Bluff, the excellent actor Frank Middlemas.
The bell rings, and we get the first word, or a couple of words it seems, beard money. May I remind you that Frank Muir and his team will define beard money 3 different ways. 2 of them are bogus, no good. 1 of them's all right. That's the one that Arthur and his